In today's video, we are going to be talking about something I've been thinking about the last few days. And there was a video that I saw a little while ago, and it was titled The Success Trap. And this was a video just like this, a sitting talking head video, a one take, very minimal edits. And I sat through and I watched that video. And since watching it the first time, I think I've probably watched it 4 or 5 times all the way through. And the reason that I watched it that many times is because I felt like that information was so valuable. And I'm a big believer that everything happens for a reason. So when a YouTube video randomly pops up on my feed and I end up watching it and those words end up, resonating with me, I kind of like stop what I'm doing and I think to myself, okay, this happened for a reason. I better listen. Like this thing isn't just going to pop up here for any reason. I've actually been in scenarios where I'll read a book and then I'll literally rip the page out of the book. I have a paper in my bathroom right now that is nailed to my wall because the words spoke to me so clearly at that specific moment. And I was like, okay, I need to listen to this message. And this video was no different. So I'd like to kind of share some of the eye openers from that video with you guys because I think that it might be impactful for anybody else who's watching. And like I said, the video was titled The Success Trap. And I think that with where I am in life right now, I have, started to feel drawn towards things like, a nicer house and nicer cars and multiple cars and, all this flashy, like materialistic stuff. And it has made me kind of, question a lot of that stuff because I'm working super hard. I'm putting in a lot of effort. And what happens is when you go on social media and you see people with those other things, maybe they're on a yacht or they're driving around in Dubai with a Lamborghini and all this stuff, you start to think, well, hey, I want to be able to do that stuff too. But a lot of that is just chasing fictitious things that they're not gonna scratch that itch for you. And it reminds me of another thing that I've been learning about in, rereading the book The 4 Hour Work Week, where it talks about the difference between actual, money versus, lifestyle design and things of that nature. And the example that it gives in that book is it talks about, who's richer, right? You've got one guy who makes 100 grand a year and you've got another person that makes 50 grand a year. And you say, who's richer? Well, if you're talking about like actual money that they make every single year, then you'd say, well, definitely the guy who makes 100 grand a year is richer. But then in the example, it breaks it down line by line. And they say, well, all right, the guy who makes 100 grand a year lives in San Francisco and his cost of living is $80,000 per year. So he's got $20,000 left over. He also works 50 hours a week, and it boiled down the math on his hourly rate. Then it said, okay, this other person who makes 50,000 a year, they live in a lower cost of living area. The example that they gave was Thailand. So they said, okay, they live in a lower cost of living area. Maybe it costs $15,000 for them, their cost of living instead of 80 like the other guy. And they only work 20 hours a week to make their 50,000. And then they boiled down how much money that person makes per hour. So now who's richer, right? So when you break it down like that, and that was strictly from, a financial standpoint, but when you break it down like that, it kind of outlines, a different story because it really is about how much you save, not how much you make. If you make $1 million a year, but you spend $999,000 of it, you got $1,000 left over. Versus if you make 200 grand a year and you save 150,000 of it and you live on 50, who's richer at that point? The guy who makes 1 million or the guy who makes 200,000? So it's it's all like a little paradigm flip that you have to switch in your head. But in that video, the individual who made that video talked about, a lot of people are chasing these materialistic things to scratch some sort of itch, to fill some sort of void, whether it's an ego thing or what have you. They're working hard towards things that at the end of the day don't give them fulfillment. These people might be slaving away at a job that they do not like, and they might be making good money on paper, right? Just like that guy who makes 100 grand a year. But all it is so that they can live in a bigger house that doesn't necessarily fulfill them. So they can drive a cooler car, right? Maybe instead of driving a Toyota Camry to work, they're driving a Mercedes Benz, and that's going to cost significantly more money, right? And it will maybe for a time make them feel good when they're driving around in their Mercedes, their BMW, or what have you, but it's not going to give them that, deeper fulfillment. And I thought that that video for where I am in life just spoke to me because I'm in a situation where I've made a good bit of money. So like the opportunity for me to go do these things and go buy the fancy sports car and go buy the bigger house, like those opportunities have opened themselves up to me. And you just get curious, right? You hop on Zillow and you start scrolling and think, man, maybe it would be cool to have a house like, you know what I mean? I'm in a townhome right now. Maybe I can upgrade to a detached with some land and I could be near the water. And then, yeah, my car's cool now, but like, what if I had, a Land Rover, Range Rover? That'd be pretty cool. Like, I get the blacked out rims. And you start thinking about all that stuff. But what you realize is those things keep you locked in to the grind. They keep you locked into, being stuck in the loop of, just working for your things that kind of, make they give you a little bit of joy, I guess, initially, but it's more so to fill the void. And if you're not doing something that you're passionate about, which the majority of people work jobs they don't like, then it's like, okay, you're kind of spinning your wheels here, right? And you end up in what a lot of people refer to as the rat race. Keeping up with the Joneses. That's another thing that they call it. So, and I've noticed that I have started to be drawn towards those things. And making it a point to realize that and then pump the brakes on it and say, you know what am I working so hard for? Am I really working so hard so that instead of driving a Ford Explorer, I can drive a Range Rover? Is that why I'm waking up every single day and working as hard as I possibly can? Or am I trying to create my dream life? So it's very easy to get stuck in that. And I think one of the things that makes people stuck in it is social media. We live in a society where there's a lot of comparison going on. When you see somebody else that has a nicer car, or and again, this all ties to the Keeping Up with the Joneses. Except 20 years ago, you could only compare yourself to the people in your town. Oh, so and so, a couple blocks away. Did you see the cool car he got? Right now, social media, you can hop on social media, and you might have a good life. You might make good money for your age, but you hop on social media and you see some freaking multimillionaires. I don't know. You see some billionaires, multimillionaire third cousin ripping around in a Ferrari, and you're like, wow, okay, maybe I'm not doing as good as I thought I was, right? And those intrusive thoughts start piling in. So then you think to yourself, well, maybe I can upgrade my car and this and that. And again, that's where you get stuck in that loop of just playing that game, and there's no end to it, right? There's always going to be a nicer car. There's always going to be a nicer house. There's always going to be that next thing, and it really does take away from your fulfillment, and it takes away from your purpose. So let me I'll share with you guys that piece of paper. I'm gonna have to go rip this thing off my wall, but I'm gonna go grab that piece of paper here. And this is a one take, by the way, so I'm not even gonna cut this out of the video. I'm gonna go grab that piece of paper really quick and I'm gonna read it off to you because when I read it, it stuck to me so much. So this is something that it's right next to my sink where I brush my teeth so that I can glance over, and every now and then, a couple times a week, I'll look at it. And this is what I'm trying to drive through my head, and I wanted to share that with you guys. Now this page, it was actually taped to my wall. It's all ripped up and stuff because I ripped it out of the book. But this page is from the book The Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday. I'm a big fan of Stoic philosophy. There's a lot of controversy, I guess, related to Stoic philosophy online because people don't really understand what exactly it is. They just think that, oh yeah, Stoicism, it's about having no emotions. Yeah, that's a very limited thing, and that's actually completely false. But anywho, I'm going to read this to you. It says, Progress of the soul. To what service is my soul committed? Constantly ask yourself this and thoroughly examine yourself by seeing how you relate to that part called the ruling principle. Whose soul do I have now? Do I have that of a child, a youth, a tyrant, a pet, or a wild animal? to what are you committed to? What cause? What mission? What purpose? What are you doing? And more importantly, why are you doing it? How does what you do every day reflect in some way the values that you claim to care about? Are you acting in a way that's consistent with something you value? Or are you wandering unmourned to anything other than your own ambition? When you examine these questions, you might be uncomfortable with the answers. That's good. That means you've taken the first step to correcting your behavior, to being better than those wild creatures Marcus mentions. It also means you're closer to discovering what your duty calls you to do in life. And once you discover it, you've moved a little bit closer to fulfilling it. I'm going to repeat one of the lines. Are you acting in a way that's consistent with something you value? Or are you wandering unadorned to anything other than your own ambition? And I think that that was the biggest takeaway that I got from that. I think to myself, okay, I'm working really hard. I'm excelling really hard. Now, why am I doing that? Really, why am I doing that? And if for whatever reason you notice, man, I'm doing that so that I can go buy that nicer car, because I think that that's going to make me feel some type of way and feel cool about myself. People are going to look at me, I'm so awesome. Or I'm doing that because I'm going to go buy this, big mansion. And it's going to be near the water. And it's going to be awesome. You got to really question those things. And now here's the caveat to that. If you want those things, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with having nice things. But if you're trying to get those things and you're over leveraging yourself and you're giving yourself a bunch of stress and you're working a job that makes you miserable to get those things, whatever thing you think you're going to get from them, it's not going to scratch that itch. It's really not. I would argue to say that somebody who wakes up every single day and does something meaningful that fulfills them, that's their calling, that's their purpose, I would argue that that individual is more successful than someone who makes 200 grand a year and hates what they do every single day of their life. Not only that, but I think the individual who maybe makes a little bit of money right now, chasing that passion, chasing the thing that fulfills them every single day, the thing that gets them up every morning and they're excited about, they might make a little bit of money right now, but because they are in line with what their purpose is and they're in line with what's going to fulfill them, I think that that individual is going to end up becoming way more financially successful than the person who works a job that they hate. Even though that person making 200 grand, they might be making way more than you right now. If you do the thing that fulfills you, that gives you that drive, that the thing that you feel like you are called to do, if you do that thing, I promise you, eventually it's going to pan out. At the beginning, it's going to be tough. But if you hold on to that little dream, you hold on to that thing you're passionate about, that passion is going to make you unstoppable because it's going to make you not quit. Because if it wasn't for money, you'd still be doing it anyways, right? And that's why you're going to get the biggest financial reward, is because you're going to be chasing that dream. So that is my little takeaway from that video regarding the success trap. And I think it's really, really important to have that in the back of your mind. Like, why are you doing the things that you're doing? Why are you working so hard towards these things? Is it for the greater good of the people around you? Is it for the greater good of your own life and your family's life? Or is it more so that you can fill your ego by going and driving a nice car, or you can go buy this big house? And again, I'm not saying that those things aren't fun. I'm not saying that those things, I'm not saying those things are bad, but again, remember why it is you're doing it. If it's a small part of your world, right? Like, let's say that you go do your passion, right? And it's tough for 10 years, but then eventually you make it. Now you're making hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars. If you want to go buy that sports car, you go buy it in cash. It's a very small part of your world. Have at it. There's nothing wrong with that. But again, most people are in situations where they go buy these things and that's what keeps them in the thing that makes them miserable. It makes no sense, right? They got you. The car dealership commercials, right? The Mercedes Benz commercials where they're like driving around and they've got the cool footage, and come experience how amazing it is and how great your life's going to be driving a Mercedes Benz, right? You going from the car that gets you from point A to point B, you now going, okay, I'm going to buy this Mercedes. It keeps you locked into the job that you don't like. So that's stupid. That car company just manipulated you with a fancy commercial made you think that this car was going to give you that feeling of fulfillment, and now you're locked into debt. Most people finance their vehicles. You're locked into 7 years of $800 car payments, $1,000 car payments. That wasn't a smart decision, because now you have to keep working the job you hate. So that is my big takeaway for this evening. It's something I've been thinking about so much, and I wanted to share that with you guys.